This is Cover Story, a podcast where we take apart the song covers we love and take a deep dive into the stories behind them. And I'm Stephanie Shonekan. Wind Beneath My Wings began as a love song, and it still is. Jeff Silber and Larry Henley wrote it in 1982 and offered it up to several artists like Colleen Hewitt and Gladys Knight and the Pips. But when Bette Midler begrudgingly sang it for the movie Beaches, it became a song about death and what it does to those who still live.
For so long, a beautiful smile to hide the pain.
It's a ballad that especially resonates with people who lost loved ones to the 9/11 attacks in 2001. But grief and love are universal. This song took on new meaning when Eddie and Gerald Levert covered it in 1995. Their version of the song is a touching tribute between father and son. Inspired by the gospel music often found in the Black church, it's an intimate glimpse into Black fatherhood. Heather Gray is my guest this episode. She is the Director of Administrative Services for the University of Maryland's College of Arts and Humanities, where I serve as Dean. Heather and I met shortly after my move to UMD, and it wasn't long before I found a friend in her. It happens quickly among music lovers. Heather remembers her own father when she hears Wind Beneath My Wings. In this conversation, we debate these two versions of the song and what it means to cherish our lost loved ones by living out their legacy. Here's our conversation. Welcome, Heather Gray, to my little podcast, Cover Story, with moi, Stephanie Shonekan. And when I first arrived here at the University of Maryland, of course, I met the whole team, and my journey was to get to know each member of the team and see, who they were, what they were about. And as soon as you and I found out that we enjoyed music and kind of the same kind of music, I was in, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Heather, can you kind of estimate how many concerts you've been to?
Oh, wow. Probably, I do at least 4 or 5 a year.
Goodness.
Maybe 50.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And will you say there's a certain genre that you typically go to?
Any type of music. Mm-hmm. I love music, so I go to gospel, jazz, any type of music festival, Afro, Latino festivals. I just love music. Clearly.
And so when I was thinking about the people I wanted to talk to this season, you were top of my list. I was like, I want to see what Heather wants to talk about on this show. So what song did you choose, Heather?
So first, thank you for having me.
Of course.
And the song I chose is Wind Beneath My Wings.
I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings.
And the song is, of course, by Bette Midler and Gerald and Eddie Levert.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And there are other versions, but these are the two
Yes.
that we'll talk about. And I have to say, when I asked you just casually in the hall, if I were to have you on the show, what you would choose, and you immediately came up with that song.
Yes.
Why?
Absolutely. The song has great meaning for me. It makes me think of my father, who passed away in 2000. And every time I hear the song, it's a very emotional song for me. I know it's been covered many times in many different ways. But Bette Midler's version and Eddie Levert's version, Gerald and Eddie Levert's version, are the two that are stand out the most to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
I have to say that when you chose this song and these two versions, I was delighted, because just that week I had been talking with my husband Tomiwa about the new season, and I was like, I wish someone would choose The Wind Beneath My Wings, because every time I hear it, it stops me in my tracks. I typically listen to I think I've got the Gerald Levert and Eddie Levert version on one of my playlists, and every time it comes up in the shuffle, it makes me think of my own, not my father, but my mother, right? It makes me think of my brother, both of whom have lost. And so it's a great song, and I'm so glad that you chose it. But let's lay out the foundation. So Bette Midler sang the song in Beaches.
Yes.
And she sings it about the sort of loss of a friend, So honestly, it can transcend different kinds of relationships.
You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind.
So it came out in 1988, and it was originally written by Jeff Silber and Larry Henley. They thought that a lot of artists might cover it, but Midler's version was the one that really hit. She then brings it back in 2001 after 9/11. So it makes sense that it would be a song that would really hit for what happened in 2001 during the tragedy and the awfulness of 9/11. But before she brings it back in 2001, in 1995, Eddie and Gerald Levert, a father and son, cover it. Of course, we all know Eddie from the OJs. Love that group. Gerald, one of his sons, his middle son, Gerald has his own career as an outstanding singer. And so Eddie and Gerald then cover it as a father and son duo in 95.
That's why I used to take you and your brothers on the road. I used to carry all alone. But now I'm glad we can stand up and sing it together now.
By this time, Gerald has gone solo from his group Levert, and he has duos with people like Patti LaBelle and so on. So there's a certain quality to Gerald's voice that comes through. So let's talk about these two versions. What is it about the song that really makes you think of your father? What is it about the lyrics, about the melody? Why this song? Because it could have been any other song. Luther Vandross, Dance with My Father. It's another great one. But why this song?
Well, Luther's song is another one that gets me too.
It does.
But this song, very complicated start in life. Started out life in a group home foster care situation and was later adopted by my parents. They were already retirement age, and they were from the South and had migrated to Pennsylvania. Very hard-working parents. My father made sheet metal for a living. Very quiet man, very stoic. Never once in my life did I hear him say the words, "I love you," but showed me repeatedly. But as a child, I didn't understand what that was, what that looked like. And not just my father. It's just not something that was said in the house. It was just very old school, old-fashioned upbringing. You work hard and, so not really understood as a child. But he did a lot of things for a little girl who didn't necessarily understand where she fit into the world. In between races, I'm biracial, being adopted, being, fitting into this environment. He did a lot of things that I did not recognize that were done out of love, without saying the words "I love you." I didn't realize that really until I was an adult. I didn't realize it when Bette Midler's version came out. That version at that time was more so related to the movie and the friendships that the women shared. But when I heard Eddie and Gerald Levert sing it, and when Gerald Levert says, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," I understand. It hit me.
To go unnoticed. But Daddy, 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 I've got it all.
What my father has shown me my whole life without ever saying the words. So it always takes me back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eddie and Gerald had that strong father-son relationship, and the video of the song that they do shows you this connection between Gerald's childhood and his adulthood, right? And what you said about not knowing what the love was when you were a child, like you knew you were safe, you knew you were loved or cherished, but you didn't hear the words. In the video, we see like a young Gerald watching his dad on TV.
So Daddy, I remember you up on the stage singing your song now. That's why.
Trying to copy him, you know, and his dad coming home from all the tours that the OJs must have had. And young Gerald and his brothers are kind of watching and learning, you know, on the side. And then as they become adults, Eddie says, you know, I'm so proud of where you are now. And so it speaks to the trajectory of the from child to adult, and the endurance of protection and lessons from the father to the son. I sometimes wonder why they chose that song, you know, and what was the thinking behind that song that they chose. But I'm glad that they chose it because they do an incredible job. Heather, I want to step back a little bit and ask how you came into music.
I always had a love for music. Music, and a lot of times when there was maybe confusion in my life, or I was trying to figure my way out as a young girl, music was a place of peace for me. And music has always, like through my life, I can always relate music to what was going on in my life at the time, and what music I was into at the time, and what a song means to me.
If we think about the version of Wind Beneath My Wings by the Leverts, there's so much gospel church features in the way that they do it. Can you speak to like what they do with the song, like what they do with the ad-libs, the way that they sing? Does that come from the Black church?
I think so. I think there's a lot of emotion, and there's a lot of, I feel the song when they sing it. There's something that kind of like just reaches deep down in you and grabs you. And to me, gospel music still does that for me too. The ad-libs, the riffs.
See, I was the one with all the glory.
Even just the tone, the gruffness of their voice. They're just singing from such a deep place.
Right. And it's not that Bette Midler's isn't beautiful, right?
It is.
It is beautiful as well. It's just a different aesthetic.
It is. It is.
How would you characterize Bette Midler's version?
So her version is very calm and very smooth and very soothing. And like, in the movie, she had lost her friend and, was expressing the gratitude and things she had for her friend. I do wish that she had expressed that while her friend was still here. But it is it's more of a soothing song, and I don't receive the same feeling from the song. But it's a very nice version of the song. Very good version of the song.
There's something that she does in the song that the Leverts don't do. It's towards the end where she says, fly, fly, fly. What do you think of that piece?
I like that piece. I think even though, she's saying her friend was the wind beneath her wings, it's almost like she's telling her friend to fly at that time.
It's kind of letting
you're free,
go.
You're please fly, And so I like that she does that at the end.
And maybe the Leverts can't, because at that point, they're both there.
They're
right?
both there.
They're both there. This is Cover Story with Stephanie Shonekan. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Aaron Hay. Some of our favorite moments at KBIA come from producing conversations just like these, the ones that make you pause, laugh, and wonder. And this fall, we're releasing brand new episodes of our award-winning podcast, including Cover Story, High Turnout Wide Margins, and our newest show, Canned Peaches. You can find this Cover Story episode and more online at kbia.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Cover Story with Stephanie Shonekan. Let's get back to our conversation with Heather Gray. We're talking about the Bette Midler song, Wind Beneath My Wings. We're going to go there. We're going to talk about, what death does to us. Like this song, I think, allows us to think about that. What are the effects when we lose someone that we love? You are the wind beneath my wings. I may not have told you this, but you are the wind, yes. It's a reflection of the one who has remained.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Talk about how it affected you and your thoughts about your dad. Were you able to talk to him about your memories of how he had given you so much and so on before he died? Were you able to come to that moment?
So before my father died, he had developed dementia. And as I said, my father did not talk. He was not a person who talked. But when he developed dementia, he became this person that told these colorful stories of growing up in the South in the 20s, in the 30s. And so it became more where we had conversations where he would tell me these stories, how he fell in love with my mother and how they danced. And not really conversations about me growing up or things like that. That was not his frame of reference at that time. So we didn't have those conversations. But I did start telling him, I love you all the time. And I had my daughter the same year that the song was released.
Oh, wow.
And he was very different with my daughter, especially he was in a nursing home for a couple of years. And his interaction with her was very affectionate. And so I saw him in a very different way that way. And even though I was saying, I love you, he still wasn't saying it back. But I could feel it. I could always feel it. So after he passed and things were happening in life, and each time it would just be like, how do you do this? How do you get through this? And I'll say, that's Willie Clyde Gray right there. That's Willie Clyde Gray. That's why I can do it. And I still want my dad to be proud of me. I always feel like he sees everything that I do. And I still want him to be proud of me. He didn't say the words, I love you. He also never said a harsh word to me. He never disciplined me, not physically, no physical discipline, not a harsh word, just very even keel, very calm person. The one time I remember I got a bad grade on my report card. He was always so proud to sign my report card, straight A's, and I got a bad grade. He refused to sign my report card. I was devastated.
Oh, wow.
I was devastated.
Heather.
But that was the extent of him showing he was upset. So,
And it was because he wanted you to be great.
Yes, he knew what I could do, and I hadn't done it, and he was disappointed.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I carry that now. Yeah. Even right now, 20 plus years after he passed, when I do things and I make decisions, I still think, Daddy, I want you to be proud of me. You know, and it drives me, it motivates me, and I reference my daughter too, because I realized I want to be that for her, and I want to tell her,
yeah,
so she hears it. But I also want her to look at me and say, you know, Mom, you've been the wind beneath my wings.
There's something about the generation of our parents. So my mother, who raised me, was West Indian, also very stoic. You know, didn't say I love you while I was growing up. I hardly ever heard that, but she gave so much to all four of us. I had 3 siblings. One of them has passed. And we remember how she wasn't like lovey-dovey, touchy-feely, but she really put so much into us that we knew it was love. You know, we knew it was love. But I think that generation of Black parents, and I can't speak for all Black parents, but it sounds like your dad and my mom were similar in their styles. Never raised a hand against us, but wanted us to do well in school and pushed us. And so your dad passed about 20 years ago, right? Just over 20?
Yes.
And my mother passed 2 years ago, and I just felt. But by that time, a little of the dementia had set in, and she had started saying "I love you" to my children. You know, she was very affectionate. She had grown much more affectionate in her older age. So yeah, I just think there's so many parallels between our experiences, even though I grew up on the other side of the world. You know, but there's something about Black parents. All parents, most likely, but you know, I'll speak for you and I, Black parents who know that the world is stacked up against them, and therefore want us to succeed against those odds, right?
Yes.
I think that's so beautiful, and why the Levert version gets me every time is that we know that. Gerald and Eddie sang this song many times. It became like a Father's Day anthem, right? Just a really wonderful version. They add on the last verse where they really go back and forth, and it's a new verse. It's not in Bette Midler's version.
Your middle side swings,
But then we know that Gerald Levert died in 2006, which really always gets me when I hear the song, and I wonder what Eddie thinks as a parent who lost a child, what he thinks when he's listening back to this song. What do you think about? So we'll go back because we haven't really talked a lot about Bette's version.
Yeah.
I know we've said it's a pretty song. It's a lovely song. What do you think of Bette Midler's voice? You know, very musical theater.
Yeah, I think, yes, musical theater, but there's a clarity to her voice.
Clarity is good. Yeah.
Very clear, very smooth, calming, very calming. Even though she's singing about the loss of someone.
Right.
It doesn't make me sad. It only made me sad when I listened to the song and watched the movie at the same time. But if I listen to the song without the movie,
it's a pretty song.
It's a pretty song. But again, she has a wonderful voice, but more of a movie soundtrack type voice for me.
Yeah, produced.
Yeah.
Very produced, and the Leverts are performance kind of.
Yes.
Okay, so Heather, every time I do this show, I say to my guest, there's a continuum of 1 to 100, and we're going to give a certain amount to one version and then the rest to the other version. And sometimes we come out with 50-50, but I'm going to let you think about that. What would you give Bette Midler's version? And again, we know it was for the film. She came back and did it for 9/11. Around that time, it was like a remake of the song. And then we've got the Gerald and Eddie Levert version. How would you divide it up between Bette Midler and the Leverts?
So, for me, it's going to be the Leverts. Bette Midler's version, again, is very nicely done, very nicely done. But that raw emotion I feel with the Leverts, and that lyrical conversation between a father and a son, just resonates with me. So I'm going to give it, and also with Bette Midler coming back after 9/11, the Leverts had already done it, so I was already locked in. I'm going to give it like 80-20.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair. I think because of all the narrative that you've shared with us that connects this song to your own experience.
Yeah.
I get it. 80 sounds right. 80 for the Leverts and 20 for Bette Midler. I'm not mad at that. I would probably do 60-40. I just have a thing for. I love movies, first of all, so I love songs in movies that we can make the connection. And I also think that when someone originates a song, that we should give them a little bit. But I adore the Gerald and Eddie Levert version, so I'll give them 60, and I'll give Bette Midler 40. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so personal too, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
It's what I love about music. Thank you so much, Heather, for coming on my little show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed.
That's this week's episode of Cover Story with Stephanie Shonekan. I'm Stephanie Shonekan. Next time, we're looking at the song You Can't Hurry Love with my new friend, Tom Flynn. We'll discuss the Supremes versus Phil Collins and the bridge they built between generations, because we can all relate with the hope and sometimes the frustration of young love. Cover Story with Stephanie Shonekan is produced by Caitlin McElwain, Janet Saidi, Ryan Famuliner, and Aaron Hay, with me, Stephanie Shonekan. Special thanks to Nat Kuhn, recording engineer at the University of Maryland. You can find more about this podcast on Twitter at KBIA and at VoxMag, and check out more about the podcast in the current issue of Vox Magazine at voxmagazine.com. See you next time.